In late 2019, I went to an independent promotion called Prestige to see Jordynne Grace wrestle. At that time, she was calling fans down and body slamming them on top of her opponent. Well, I happened to be the lucky guy that she called down. And while I'm there waiting for her to body slam me, she looks up at me and then shakes her head no and tells me to go sit down. So, I laughed it off. I thought it was funny. When I posted the video on Twitter, a lot of people were being pretty ruthless to me, calling me fat and things like that, because I was a bigger guy at the time, and it was just kind of a wake up call that I needed to lose some weight. So I lost myself 60 pounds, and I reached out to Jordynne Grace to let her know that I appreciate, her doing that, and that it kind of lit a fire under me. And she actually wrote me a letter that said, "Oh, it had absolutely nothing to do with your weight. It's just because you're about 2 feet taller than me, and it would have probably hurt you or my opponent."
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Congratulations on losing the weight if that's what you felt you wanted to do, and I'm sure in some way you probably feel better about yourself. I think the first thing I was going to say was, no, people on Twitter being mean and cruel, that's a first. Are we on the same Twitter? Or yes, we are all on the same Twitter, and it is what it is. I also wish that I didn't know that Jordynne Grace did this as a spot in her matches, so it would pop me even more. But I have seen clips of it online, and I do love it. I don't know the legalities of it, but I do feel it really embodies the spirit of small-time independent wrestling in person, getting the crowd involved. I love bringing my heel around, having a 10-year-old kid chop them, having them boot them. It's always the most fun and makes for the most fun match. One of the reasons I picked this call is because I kind of have a similar story in which I was wrestling for a company called Lucha Vavoom out in Los Angeles, California. It was at the Mayan Theater. It was constantly packed, like 2,000 people, a very upper scale, hipster Los Angeles crowd. And during intermission, as a masked wrestler, and I'll keep my anonymity alive about which masked wrestler I was, but I was a masked wrestler wrestling for Lucha Vavoom, you would walk around the crowd. Now that night, I had invited some of my comedy friends out there, and we were mingling, but I was playing the character a little bit, and my comedy friend brought some other comedy friends, and one of the comedy friends is pretty well known within the Hollywood circles, I guess. And so at first I start picking up everybody, doing airplane spins, picking up everybody, and then my buddy goes, pick her up. And she was of a shape that I wasn't confident that I could 100% pick her up and airplane spin her. I was so self-conscious of her feelings, and I was weighing out the options in my head. What do I do? Okay, I don't pick her up, and she thinks to herself, is it because I'm too big? Or I pick her up because I want her to feel like everybody else, but in picking her up, I realize I can't pick her up, and either I fall over or I fail, and then more of a crowd realizes that it's her size, and I'm weighing the scales of which one would be more embarrassing because I feel I've been put in a situation that is kind of a lose-lose. So I went with the decision of saying I had to go, no more picking up and airplane spinning, and I left. It's something I think about to this day, and I realize how hard it must be. She didn't volunteer herself. Somebody volunteered her to do that. Put in an awkward place. I've been in those awkward places, whether it's something physical, whether it's something mental, whether it's something emotional, and it does kind of bring you back to like childhood trauma, which God knows I have, and I'm sure most of you do too. So I do love that Jordynne, of course, I think a good human, Jordynne Grace, reached back out, put your mind at peace, and it seemed like a win-win for you because now you know it wasn't even your weight, and you lost some weight, and maybe a win-win-win because you still get to be a fan of Jordynne Grace. Hey, thanks for watching. That call was part of a whole podcast called Wrestling Anonymous. Listen to the whole thing weekly. Wherever you listen to your podcast, go subscribe. While you're at it, subscribe right here on YouTube to Colt Cabana's channel. Thank you.